Hey, it's April from the Noble Garden, and we are in my tomato alleys. I have been extremely busy lately and been neglecting the pruning on my tomato plants, which tomato plants don't have to be pruned. It is a choice that I make, and I make that choice to give it more airflow or to reduce the risk of fungal diseases that take tomato plants out early. But if you don't prune them, it's not a big deal. You're just going to have a big bushy plant, and I do plant them pretty close together, and that's why I don't want them to be bushy, because they'll be touching each other, giving each other diseases, and so on. So that being said, I've done 2 full rows, and I have 3 more to do. But by the time I'm done with my 3 rows, the first 2 rows are going to be needing to be redone. It's a continuous thing that you do, and I really should be doing it weekly. However, I did those last week, and now I'm on this end, and like I said, I am behind. So right now we're on my slicers. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to show you kind of what I'm doing. So I'm cutting suckers off, and I will show you where suckers are located. But this is a prime example of a sucker. So if I wanted to, I could cut all the bottom leaves out. And I can do 2 different things. I can stick this on the ground, and all that fuzzy hair stuff you see will grow you a new plant. Or I could put it in water, let it get lots of roots, and then put it in the ground. Let me bring you guys down closer to see. Let's see if that helps you guys see better. So you'll notice there was a leaf here that I cut at some point, but this right here growing out of it is a sucker. I'm going to leave this sucker here and let it have 2 branches, but I don't really want it to have more than that, because this is a Dr. Witchy, which by the way is my favorite tomato, but I don't want it to have a whole bunch because I have like 5 plants of them by accident. But you're going to notice this is just a leaf. I'm going to go ahead and cut this leaf off, and I'm going to tell you why in a second. It's already getting some signs of blight, so I don't want that hanging out. And then there was a sucker right above it that I'm going to cut out. So now I'm going to leave it alone. I really don't want to cut much more off of the stem than that. And the only thing I'm going to do now for the rest of the trimming of this plant is I'm going to take off suckers I don't want and leaves that look bad. Today I'm going to leave it alone. Like I said, I decided to leave this sucker here so it has 2 branches. But like next week when I come to look at it to retrim it, any leaves that are sick or any suckers that have grown up this way. So I'm going to do the same thing down this row. When it comes to tying the tomato plants up, that's what I use these little white clips from. I do get these from Amazon. There are all kinds of different things that you can use. We did buy this special tool, but I didn't really like it. It had plastic and it kind of used like a stapler. My husband uses it, so sometimes you might see it on our plants as red or blue tape kind of thing, but I didn't like it, so I'm gonna use clips. But if he's out here doing this instead of me, you might see his tape. But I just pin it where I want it, so that way if the wind blows, you get thunderstorms, it won't tumble your plant over. Okay, we're going to move down the row to the next ones, and so on and so on. When I started first messing with this one, it was the smallest, it was the runt, And you can see it's pretty wild and untamed here. So I figured it'd be the perfect one to bring to you guys. So I'm going to start by cutting from the bottom. It had a sucker that I don't want on the plant. So I cut that sucker off. I'm going to show you how to differentiate in just a second between suckers and regular leaves. You want to trim the bottom leaves off because you do not want the bottom leaves to touch the ground, because every time they touch the ground, they are getting exposed to different bacteria, and that's another thing that causes you a bunch of disease. So I should not, and we'll reassess in just a second. Alrighty. So I'm hoping I'm showing this very good to you guys. On this tomato plant, you see a leaf here, the normal leaf, and what I call the armpit. You'll see that there is a little, and it doesn't have flowers on it. So I'm gonna pick it off. Here's another one for example. Here's your stem. Here's your main leaf. You'll notice in the armpit, there's another, technically, a tomato plant growing. It's called a sucker. So I'm gonna cut that sucker off. And this plant here, as I go up, there's a good sucker here, a good sucker there, but it has already branched off into two, so I'm gonna let it have those two, but I want to go ahead and remove these two. And I don't know how well you guys can see this, but this branch right here actually has some flowers on it. So I'm going to leave that branch alone. I am assessing this flower, and I don't really know how much you guys can see of what I'm doing. Let's see if I can bring it up closer. So heirlooms are known really good for those big tomatoes, but they are joint multiple tomato plants together. So I'm looking to see if this flower has more than one flower in it, because if so, I'm not going to want it to pollinate, which it looks like one flower to me, so I'm going to let it be. This one right here has already been pollinated, and it's going to be making me a tomato, so I'm going to just leave that one alone. All right, now let's pin this so that it cannot be knocked down. We are getting storms today, so today is a really good day for me to come and secure these things. So it's not very tall, so it's not very easy to secure. Also, these fences have been used a lot, so that fence is kind of bent in that way, so there's not much I can do about this. But this should keep it safe if it storms today and gets really windy. Alright guys, this can make a very long video. I have 115 to 18 tomato plants. I don't plan on pruning them all anyways. Like I said, I've already done some sides, but I'm just going to show you how much better these look pruned versus unpruned, and then in the video. So these are some guys that are not pruned. You notice their leaves are everywhere. They're wild and crazy, which is not necessarily a problem. But with as close as I plant mine, I don't want their leaves touching as much as possible. And this is pruned. You see how it's more managed. I have 2 stalks per each plant growing. I don't have a bunch of suckers. It shouldn't be as leafy, wild, and crazy. And this is my plan. I do this every year and have not had an issue with it. So I could keep on doing it so I can fit as many tomato plants as possible. I love variety. If you were only growing you a handful of tomatoes because you like that one particular tomato, I don't know if it would be necessary as much. But they do say airflow, healthier plants, that kind of thing. Disease less, that kind of thing. But anyways, that's what I do. And I know a lot of people have questions about pruning tomatoes. So here you have it. Here's how you prune tomatoes, and this is why you prune tomatoes. I hope you enjoy this video. Thank you for watching.